expected, you may not be disappointed.
Or will you?
Find out in this very special episode of...
Tell you later.
And don't forget to like and subscribe to their channel.
We haven't got a title song for this show, so we're singing this thing instead.
Okay.
It's really just a substitute. Nonetheless, the melody may stay in your head.
Oh, I hope so.
'Cause it's a tune.
It's a tune.
You'll love to croon.
You'll love to croon.
But there's one thing you should know. We have to confess we do not possess a title song for this show.
Ain't it peculiar?
Believe it or not, we haven't got a title song for this show.
Oops. Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Tell You Later. I'm Katie Lee.
And I'm Townsend Coleman.
This is Townsend Coleman.
That's right, Townsend Coleman
Our
is the name.
special guest. And thank you to all the patrons who make this show possible. We really appreciate you so very much. And if this is blah blah blah, if this is your first time joining us and you like it, please subscribe and hit the ding, the bell. Yeah, you have your own bell.
Well, I was wondering, I've got my very own right here.
We like to give everybody a bell in case there's some alarm that there's something that, triggers bellish joy.
Well, you would
Bellish joy.
You bellish joy. Well,
You can embellish the show.
You would be happy to know that I already own one of these. I have one of these at home.
Just
yes.
one?
Just one, yeah. Well, only because I don't need two.
Are you sure?
I mean, I could be a two-fisted
It's fun.
bellisher,
Yeah.
but I'm not. I'm a one-handed bellisher. So yeah. Actually, I'll tell you why I have one of these. Can I tell you why I have one of these?
Yes, tell me. I'm all ears.
Did you need to do anything more before we start yammering? Because
No, I think this is fine.
Is this-
I'll give some more information. You were worried you wouldn't have anything to talk about, right? Okay, yeah, go ahead. No,
all of a sudden
I'm
something
fine.
just dawned on me.
Yeah?
But
What is it?
You know where this idea came from? Because I used to use one of these when I was on the radio.
Really?
Yeah. When I would do a morning show, and I used to have a bell like this, and I'll tell you where I got the inspiration from.
Okay.
Is from Steve Allen.
Oh, okay.
Because Steve Allen, in his live show, he plays piano, and of course he's a songwriter and comedian, but he used to have one of these bells on his piano, and he'd use it for punchlines, and or to summon, a character or whatever. But I thought, well, that's the coolest thing, because I saw him in concert once, and he was hilarious.
In Cleveland or here?
In Cleveland, yeah, where I grew up, And so I saw Steve Allen in concert, and was so intrigued by this bell notion that I thought, boy, if I ever got on the radio, I'm going to do that. And so I did. And so I got myself one of these.
And you
bells.
still have it?
I still have it. In fact, mine.
That's how old?
It's got to be, 45 years old or so. Whew. 45, pushing 50.
Woo-hoo!
Yeah, that's weird to me.
Hallelujah.
Weird. We didn't really say that many years. It was really 4 or 5 years ago.
Don't break my bell. What are you doing?
This is my OCD.
What is the matter with the bell?
Because it's not quite straight. And
I'm trying to.
Why don't you use mine? Bend it even.
Here, is that better? Is that a better bell?
It actually is.
Okay.
Thank you. Whew, now I can breathe. Okay.
Continue.
And it,
maybe that's why that one sounds better. I know, they have
Yeah, no, we're going to have to switch.
You like?
Yeah. Vinny's dying over here because he gets it.
This is my kazoo. Is that acceptable? Woo! Okay. So, you finished the bell story.
That was the bell story. Well, all I was going to say is, so my bell has a piece of carpet that was carefully cut out into a circle by
you. Yes.
and adhesived into the bottom of the bell. So
Okay.
it's a nice. So it was the whole point of
What
that
he's
was
saying is he
so in the
put
studio when I was on the
carpet
radio, I had to put it down, and I didn't want it making noise because the metal on just a counter.
But when you rang it, it still dinged.
it dinged. Oh yeah,
That's
because the
awesome.
carpet was actually facing down.
I should have asked you to bring your own bell. Next time.
If I had known that bells were featured so prominently in Tell You Later, I would have thought to bring my own bell.
Well, next time, the bells, popcorns, ukuleles, and kazoos are pretty standard.
Okay, ukuleles I don't play them, but I have them.
Just in case.
Just in case.
That's
One
right.
never knows.
Emergency ukulele.
Someone breaks in the middle of the night and
Kabongum.
you don't own a gun. You gotta protect yourself
But
somehow.
do you play really badly and scare them?
That's what it
scare
is.
them away?
Yeah. And then they go. They go
Yes,
running.
welcome to Cartoon Land in
Yeah,
our
well,
heads, everybody.
that's right.
But okay, so let me just digress just a little bit.
Okay.
You mentioned Cleveland.
Cleveland.
And so the reason you are here is not only because you're a fascinating person that everybody wants to know more about, including myself, but you met Will in Cleveland. You knew him before he moved out here. So I and people often probably think, well, those of you who are Adventures in Odyssey fans know Townie as Jason on Adventures in Odyssey, which we all work together on.
Yeah.
And but he's also done a bazillion cartoon voices and announced on how many different networks?
Oh gosh. Well, 3 of the major ones. I was at NBC for.
There were only 3 major ones when I was born.
Yeah, but because that didn't include Fox back then.
Right.
But now Fox is included in really sort of the big 4.
So I thought that people might want to hear your story about how you met Will.
Yeah.
And I know he had something to do with you coming out to California too.
He had a lot to do with me to do with me coming out to California. Yeah.
He got you those speech lessons, right? So you could.
he did, yeah. And no, I met Will before I even got into radio. It was in 1973. And I had just finished, my
Which
first.
just proves you're older than me.
That does prove it,
Yes, it does.
doesn't it? Show me your driver's
Of course, I wasn't in radio in '73 either, so I guess it's kind of the same.
Because you were still reading Dr. Seuss books.
Nah, no, that's not true.
But yeah, so in 1973, I had just finished my first year of college. I went to University of Colorado in Boulder, and I went out there to study architecture, actually, because I wanted to go to school at Cal Arts in California here.
Which is
California Institute of the Arts. It's a Disney school. And
for animators.
well, not just for animators. It's for actors as well, and computer animators. And
What were you interested in at the time?
acting.
Oh,
Yeah, I wanted
acting for computers.
acting for computers, and I wanted it, which you can do now. By the way,
How so?
well, you've heard of this thing called Siri or Alexa or
That's true.
yeah. So yeah, there's lots of acting for computers now, but back then we didn't even know what computers were, at least not personal computers. But yeah, so back in '73, I was an architecture major, which lasted about 2.5 minutes.
You're an architecture major who wanted to be an actor.
Right.
Okay, because they both started with A, and that was the only thing in the catalog that you could sign
exactly.
up for.
I started, and I am so ADD, I couldn't get past those first couple of ones. I said acting. That was my first one, and then I got down to architecture. I said, well, if I can't do the acting thing, the architecture thing might.
Why did you think you couldn't do the acting thing?
Because my mom wouldn't let me.
Oh.
Yeah, I wanted to go to Cal Arts out here in LA, and she wouldn't. She wouldn't let me do it.
You need a skill first.
And it was Cal Arts' first year in business. back then.
Oh.
Yeah, and I wanted to go so badly, and she wouldn't let me. So architecture was the next best thing as far as I could tell.
And oddly enough, your parents worked in radio, so they were like trying to keep you for TV.
My dad did. Yeah, my parents actually met working at NBC in New York at 30 Rock, and my dad was he was the boss of the pages. He was the manager of what they call guest relations.
Page boss. That's like when you help somebody who's playing the piano. Oh, you've got your new Tell You Later tote bag.
Cute. I love it.
Did you get that at Merchulator?
I sure did. It's so
Merchulator.com?
cute. Look,
Super
Tell
cute.
Ya Later bag, and it's got
awesome.
everything in it.
Do they have hats?
Exactly.
And
page
you turn the pages?
Right. No, not that kind of page. You know, did you ever see 30 Rock? You know, Kenneth the Page?
Yes.
Yeah, that's what my dad was the boss of.
Okay.
So he was the manager of the tour division at NBC in New York. But what he really wanted to do was be a network announcer. And they had a school back then that you had to apply to. NBC did. It's all in-house. And he applied and didn't get in. And he was so frustrated that he moved us from New York when I was a year old in 1955 out to Denver, Colorado at a time when they had like
I'll show you
2,000 people or
NBC.
something. Yeah, right.
I'm going to Colorado.
I'm going to Denver. And he actually got on the radio in Denver. And
good for him.
Yeah, was in the
Deserves a bell.
that's worth a bell.
I think so.
That's worth a ding. And or as Tim Conway Jr. says, ding dong. And yeah. So that's how we ended up in Denver. But yeah, and then my dad got out of the business a couple of years later and became a jeweler.
Oh, of all things.
Of all things, yeah, which he did to the day he died.
Interesting.
But yeah, so radio was kind of in my blood. I grew up listening to old time radio drama. So like when Adventures in Odyssey came along for me, it was really a dream come true because I'd always wanted to do some sort of radio drama too, because I grew up listening to these old time radio dramas that my dad had old tapes of, and they always fascinated me. So that's kind of how I got into radio. And getting back to how I met Will, when I came back from college after my first year in college.
You were there for a month. You came
there.
home.
No. I finished out my first year, but I changed from being an architect major to being a theater major anyway, despite what my mom wanted me to do. So, and as it turned out, the second semester of my freshman year, I actually auditioned for and got the lead in the university production.
That's pretty cool.
As a freshman.
Because, well, you are a terrific actor. I've seen you act.
Oh.
And you act good.
I act,
You act good.
He act good. He said all these words in the right.
I saw you. I was there in the theater. I saw you. You played like 17 million different characters, all in the same play. It was just you and some lady.
Oh,
I don't know. And you were just running around and out of breath and putting on hats and changing your clothes. And I was like, whoa! Just watching him is making me dizzy here.
Yeah, that was a pretty fun one. That was pretty wild. And I love being on stage and being an actor.
You act good.
Well, thank you very much.
All right. What was the play? Do you remember?
The play was called Life is a Dream. Yeah, it was actually an English translation of a Spanish Baroque style play. And yes, I see that. The Crow of One is instructing me to make sure I look at the camera, which I've been attempting to do from time to time.
It's hard because I'm so fetching.
I know you're there, and
I'm so fetching.
But you are fetching.
I know.
And
can't help it. It's okay.
And she rang me up this morning and she said, "I'm fetching you, so come down here and do this thing."
Yes.
And I said, "Okay." So here I am. So while I was home in the summer of 1973.
Yes.
Back in Cleveland, I won't get into how this happened, but struck up a relationship with a gal at a radio station in Cleveland. And she was the program director there. And she let me come down and see this radio station and just take a look around, because what I was looking to do was I was looking to make a demo. And I wanted to make
a
voiceover demo.
Oh,
yeah.
Really?
And so she let me come down and use the production studio.
See, make friends. Point number 1.
Amen.
Make friends.
Make friends, yeah. Because people ask us all the time, how do I get into the,
Make friends.
make friends?
Okay.
Yeah. They used to say it's not what you know, but who you know. And in a way, that's very, very true. Although the what you know is just as important as who you know. But
Because once you know somebody, if you don't know anything, then it's kind of worthless.
yeah, it is kind of worthless.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there's nothing worse than knowing somebody and not being prepared for that opportunity when it arises and you get it and they hand it to you and you're like,
What is that phrase? You guys know, success when opportunity meets preparation. Do you remember? Anybody know that?
I know it. And
If you know it, put it in the comments below because we're not going to look it up right now.
Or hit the suggestion button or these
Whatever.
one of these buttons.
Something.
Yeah, just hit a
Just
button.
don't change the channel. Okay,
Right, and stay
continue.
right here. So while I was down at this radio station, she was introducing me to some of the folks who worked there. And
What was the name of the radio station?
It was WNCR.
NCR.
Yeah, National Cash Register.
Yes, my
No, but it
mother
wasn't.
worked for NCR.
Right,
But it was
a different NCR.
Different NCR.
This was actually Nationwide Communications.
By the way, do you know why there's the W's and K's for radio stations?
Well, yeah, back when radio got going and they had the major networks. I can't explain this well, so I'm not going to try. Otherwise, I will appear
I mean, you don't explain as well as you act.
less brilliant than I.
Hey, why don't you act like you know?
just make it up.
You're a good actor.
Just pretend.
Okay.
So so the W's are all west of the W's are all east of the
See,
Mississippi.
that doesn't make sense.
K's are all west of the Mississippi.
Like, why isn't it E and W?
Because it started with the basic networks, the radio networks, the red and the blue networks, and somehow those split out and they became K's and W's.
What's the
and
W?
I don't know
Okay,
how.
if you know the answer, please put it in the comments.
But do you know
below.
what the one radio station east of the Mississippi is that does start with a K?
No.
It's KDKA in Pittsburgh.
KDKA. Really?
In Pittsburgh. Yep.
So they must.
Yeah, as far as I know, it's the only
That's
radio
odd.
station. Yeah,
Maybe they
east
have
of the Mississippi
they have
that does start with a K.
Broad.
Well, it's more than yeah.
Broad. What do you call it? Range.
Yeah, As far as the signal will broadcast is what you're talking about.
Yes, but
Yeah.
now people just go on the internet and you can listen to any radio station.
Right. Well, that was
anywhere.
terrestrial radio, and
Terrestrial.
we're all wondering where that's going to go one day. Now that
Outer
everything's gone
space deal.
online.
It's going to be outer space
space
deal radio.
That's right.
I think.
That's right.
Probably.
Well,
So
it's already started there with satellite radio.
Exactly.
There you go.
Yeah, but you know what? I mean, I don't have room in this house for a satellite. There's no way I'm going to be able to have satellite radio.
So, in 1973,
Mm-hmm.
I was at the radio station. She introduced me to this guy named Will Ryan,
Oh.
who is the promotions director at this radio station. And Will and I got chatting, and he asked me about what I was doing, and I was telling him, and I asked him about his job and what he did there. And he'd only been there about a month or two when I met him. And we just hit it off. We started chatting, and he told me about his art and all the drawing and painting that he did, and I was fascinated and he was telling me about his music, and I think a band that
Was
he was
he
in.
in
at the-
Willio and Filio at the time?
Not then. I don't think. Now, he may have been, but I don't think he mentioned it. But I found out about that a couple of years later because I ran into Will at a point when, now this is cutting to 4 years later in 1977 when I actually had gotten into radio at that point in Cleveland. And I was doing morning drive, the morning drive shift at a
Is
disco.
it hard to broadcast while you're driving?
Yeah, I've never tried that, and I probably wouldn't want to.
Oh.
Yeah, but so I was doing morning drive at this disco radio station. It was Disco 92 in Cleveland, and I wanted a logo. And I remembered that Will was an artist, and we had kept in touch through those 4 years. And so I called him up and I said, would you be able to, and if so, would you be willing to draw me a logo that we could make iron-on patches for, that we could give out to people at events and promotions and stuff like that?
Local. What did they call them when you're on site? Location.
like doing remotes. Like when we went and would do remotes, like from the bridal fair, or
something exciting,
the home
like,
show,
yeah,
the RV show, stuff like that. The
county fair,
Yeah.
Thank you so much to all you patrons who help us out there. We really appreciate your support. Thank you, everybody who's buying merch on Merchulator. Go to my website, katielee.com, and see there's all kinds of cool stuff. And you can see it there or on Merchulator.com. And also those who listen on Anchor, I want to shout out to you guys because I know there's a bazillion of you out there who listen and really appreciate you too. In our case in Cleveland, we had a big rib cook-off every year. All right.
And so we broadcast live from those places. But yeah, so I was looking for something that I could give out to listeners at places like this, at these remotes. And memorabilia, yeah. So Will drew me this fantastic logo. I wish I had it. I could show you, but
well, maybe we'll get a picture and we can put it up above. You can send it to the crew of one.
Be right up there, and you can click it, and then you can go. Then you can buy
Don't
T-shirts.
Don't make promises you can't keep.
Okay, then you can't buy anything.
Just you can see it. We can promise you that.
But you can see it. Anyway, so back in those days, I was going by, using my initials, TC, Townsend Coleman. I was going by Top Cat. And so I was...
Wasn't Stang?
TC Top Cat.
Who's the guy who did Top Cat's voice? Stang.
Arnold Stang,
right?
Yep. Yeah. And... yeah, so I was using that. So he drew me this logo that's the Top Cat in this circle, and it says, I wake up with the Top Cat, Townsend Coleman, every morning on WLYT.
Super cool.
Yeah, and so it was great. So I still have the original artwork that Will drew in 1977, and it's signed W.Z. Ryan, 1977. And I asked him what the Z stood for. And at the time, I was telling Vinny this earlier, at the time, he said nothing.
Yeah, nothing.
It was just...
He likes Z.
He just liked the letter Z. I'm like, wow, that is... I love that about this guy. I mean, he's quirky, and he does...
Makes up his own existence
he's got his
periodically.
Own, right,
yes.
He's got like his own universe that he lives in his head. And I thought, that's what I want to do. I want to...
Did you ever finish your degree in acting, by the way?
No. No. I went to one more semester of school after that, in the second semester of what would have been my sophomore year, and then I quit college and went home, and in the fall of '74 didn't know what to do with my life, so I got married. I figured,
that'll give you something to do. That's good impetus for making money,
right? Right. when you have to.
That's right.
Yeah.
Well, that's like you paying for guitar lessons, thinking that'll make you learn the guitars. You get married hoping you'll get a job.
Right.
Okay.
Right. So that's how I met Will.
And that's
so cool. And we kind of kept in touch. And then several years later, now many years later, almost 11 years after I met him, I ran into him. So in the intervening time, I had worked at five different...
I notice you keep bumping into people a lot in your stories. Do you have like space problems? Well, because you're always saying I bumped into that one.
Yeah, well, but I was wearing a bumper suit.
Ah, okay.
So
good.
I wasn't.
So no one was hurt.
I wasn't hurting anybody. Okay. Yeah, I'm thoughtful like that.
That's good.
And so in 1984, after having worked at 5 different radio stations in Cleveland over those 10 years, I had developed quite an active career doing voiceovers on the side.
Because you're good at that too.
Well, I turned out I was, and I was thrilled with that, and would much rather have been doing my freelance voiceover work than working at the radio station 6 days a week. So I quit radio, and in that summer of 1984, I was just going to stay in Cleveland. We were just going to... I was just going to look around for voiceover work in Cleveland, Pittsburgh, Detroit, Columbus, the whole little Midwest area there. And then about 2 weeks after I quit the radio station, I got a phone call from my landlord saying that we had to move. And we had to be out by the end of September.
Whoa.
And at the time I had 3 kids, 2 of them in school. And so I thought, well, I got to be out before that because I got to be somewhere where they can be settled into school. And so I thought,
That's very thoughtful of you.
And I hate moving. I don't know about you, but I hate having to pack up.
The only
everything.
person I heard who likes to move is Ellen DeGeneres. She moves every 6 months. I heard that on her show, but most people do not
from one
like
wing
to.
of her mansion.
No, she
to
actually
another
moves
wing
to
of her mansion.
houses.
What?
Yeah, look it
No,
up.
she lives up in
She
the
changes.
fancy.
No, I heard her say this. I heard her say it. She could be lying. I don't know, but
Well, if there's one person you're going to trust, it's Ellen DeGeneres.
exactly. But no, I do not care to move. It's not
No,
fun.
and I hate it as well. So I thought, oh man, I have wanted to, and I had just turned 30. So I thought, I've always wanted to move to either New York or LA. And I thought, now that I have to make a physical move and actually pack everything in this house up, if I'm not going to move across town, I'm going to move cross
That's
country.
probably what your dad
One
was
way.
thinking when he left New York. I'm gonna go.
Could have been, yeah, get out of here. Get as
go
far away from
someplace
this as I
far
can.
away, yeah.
So, but I loved Cleveland. Cleveland was a great town to grow up in. It's a great town to work in. In many ways, I actually still miss it. And that was, 38 years ago.
It gets cold though, right?
It does get cold. It gets very cold in the winter, especially with that lake effect snow coming right off of Lake Erie. But yeah.
Here, by the way, here's a little
so-
voiceover trick.
Oh, that's a good. Oh, there you go.
Teeth chattering. Free. Okay.
Yeah, free. No charge for that one. Brilliant.
So he said, well, I should go to California.
Yeah, so I ran into Will. So in the intervening time, I had done several plays. I was doing a lot of acting on stage, and I ran into Will at this local theater in Cleveland. And he said to me, I hadn't seen him in a couple of years, and he told me that he was out in California with his buddy Phil Barron doing this show called Willio and Filio. And he said, we were talking and we were thinking of all the people we know in Cleveland who should be in Los Angeles. You're the one. And so he told me that, and I thought, wow, that's crazy.
Don't pay any attention to that note that just got put on the counter.
I'm
just
looking the other way.
stay focused.
And I thought, wow, maybe there's something to it. I should do that. Well, then this exact same thing happened with another buddy of mine who was also a buddy of Will's at the time, a guy named Stu Levin. And Stu called me up about 2 weeks after Will had said that to me. And he said, my wife Carol and I were talking and we were thinking of all the people we know in Cleveland who should be in
What
Los
a funny
Angeles.
thing that they would say the same thing.
It said exactly the same thing.
It's like prophecy.
Well, that's how I took it. I mean, I really did. I honestly did. I thought, okay, so this is a weird
There's
coincidence.
some confirmation going on here, right?
Yeah, and so I talked to my wife, Mary Alice, at the time, and I said, so this happened. What do you think? Because I'm thinking about going out to LA just to look around, just to check it out. And she said, I think you should. And so I thought, well, getting that kind of support from her was huge and meant a lot to me. And so I came out right at the end of the Olympics of '84 just to look around, found a little place to rent over here in Glendale, and 2 weeks later we were living here. I mean, it happened that fast.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
That's quite a story. And you've never looked back.
Never looked back. Yeah. Well, the first year or two, I looked back
a little bit.
A little bit. I was thinking, boy, what have I done? Because I knew one person out here besides Will and Stu. I knew one other gal out here that I had done some children's theater with back in Cleveland, and so I asked her.
Were you a child at the time?
Was I what?
When you were doing children's theater?
No, I was the only adult there.
Oh.
Actually, no, I was one of 2 adults
Really?
there. Yeah.
Oh.
And so we were doing children's theater, and I knew her, and so she got me an interview with her agent, and then her husband got me an interview with his agent. And 2 weeks after I got here, I ended up with a great agent who is still my agent today, if you can believe it.
Isn't that amazing? Do you want to know what the next question is I'm going to ask you?
Not really. Okay.
What's the first rule of improv, Townsend?
Yes. And
do you want to know the next question I'm going to ask you?
I was hoping you would ask.
Well, I'll tell you later.
Tell me.
Thanks for watching. Tell You Later is a Patreon-driven entertainment show. So what are you waiting for? Come on over, join us for so much more at patreon.com/Tell You Later.
Frankly, I've no idea what those two people were saying.
Neither do I. Shall we watch it again?
Yes, any cryptologist would.